Welcome to the video tutorial of iScreen Aphasia. This app was released by Smarty Ears. I'm Barbara Fernandez. I am the designer of this app. And we authored this app with another speech-language pathologist, and her name is Tiffany Wallace. The goal of this video is to guide you, if you already own the app, on how to use the application. And if you don't own the app yet, I hope this video will help you decide if this app is a good fit for you. So let's get started, and we are on the main screen of iScreen Aphasia. To get started, we can take a look first at the settings. If you click here on the settings, this is the settings page. This is where you enter some basic information about the evaluator's name, your certification level, license number. Then if you're doing this evaluation at a specific facility, you can enter that information. Then you can also make a few decisions about the graphs in the report, date formatted, so on and so forth. I'm gonna go back here, and to get started here, we start a new screener. First things first, we go ahead and enter the patient's name, and you can do this either right before you start the assessment, the day before, or anytime you want. The reason is you can have this saved to start a screener later on. So you can enter the whole patient's name, or you can just do initials. Then we're going to select here a date of birth. Then we can put the location of the lesion. So if you have access to that information, you can enter it here, and this will populate automatically the report. The date of the lesion. So we are in 2016, let's say it was 3 days ago, whether a TPA was administered or not. The level of alertness, lethargic, alert. The diagnosis, accompanying deficits, you can select more than one. I'm going to put here dysphagia and paresis. And this information you either know or you got from the patient's chart. And here's some other basic information. If you have prior level of function, information on if you was able to read or not, physician's name and neurologist's name. If you don't have all this information, you just leave it blank, and what it does is it won't populate this information onto the report. I'm going to tap start, and you prompt if you want to save this information to start later, or if you can start the screener. I'm going to save it to start later to show you how that would work. If we save that information, we go to the archives, and you can see here have two separate assessments. One was already performed and it's completed, and the other one is here, the one on the 7th, which is today, and I'm gonna go ahead and tap here to get started. And you saw there was a pop-up with information on this specific task, which is answering yes and no questions. You had entered here, for example, the first question is your name HT, Harold something, and you just replace that with the name of the patient. In this case, the app already replaced with HT. That's because that was the two initials that I entered when I started to enter the data. And let's say he got it correct. Is your name Penguin? No. So if he got that, he marked correct. Are you a man or a woman? If he responds it correctly, mark correct. And you go on the answers to see if you responded yes, no questions correctly or incorrectly. Once you're done with that part, the app automatically goes to the next set of questions, which in this case is body part identification. You will give the patient directions such as touch your shoulder, touch your nose, correct, incorrect, and you also have a button for unable if the patient was not able to complete these tasks. You will be holding the iPad for these tasks and just orally presenting the questions to the patient. You can also pause here at the top corner. You see there is a pause button. You can pause this at any time. And if you have questions on how to perform this specific task of body parts identification, we have instructions here for you.
Ball.
And this is a simple object identification. You heard ball and you can tap play. And this is the time that you're going to hand the iPad over to the patient.
Ball.
You will play the audio for ball, and the patient will select the item.
Chair. Pencil. Fork. Mirror. Car. Book.
The app does not give any feedback on whether it's correct or incorrect. That's for assessment purposes.
Ring. Bed. Keys.
Now we have the same task, but for more complex objects.
Refrigerator. Computer. Flashlight. Tractor. Cooler. Photo album. Blender. Microwave. Tire.
Now we have following directions, and this is for one step. You go get the iPad back to you and read the direction, make a fist, smile at me, and then you're gonna score accordingly. Here we have 2 steps, then 3 steps. Now it's time for odomotor assessment. You have the task at the top, stick out your tongue, and you have here within normal limits. You swipe to go to the next. Here in this case could be a deviation to the left, deviation to the right, decreased function, or other. Other gives you the access to the text and allows you to enter any information you want to. We're just going to go through these. Now it's time for listening comprehension. We have a story. You're going to tap play.
Listen to the following story. Peter, will you please go to the store and buy some milk? Said Peter's mom, handing him money.
I'm just going to stop the story, but it's a short story. I'm going to swipe to go to the questions. Now that the patient has heard the story, you go ahead and ask him questions about the story, and you're going to score accordingly. Then we have task for automatic speech. Again, you score accordingly. Gestures. Then we have naming. Here you're going to present this to the patient. Ask him to name and then score accordingly. You can also, in this case, you see there's 4 options. We have wrong, correct, unable, and unintelligible. Here we have phrase completion. Welcome, and the patient has to say, welcome back, welcome home. Any of the answers that seem appropriate would be marked correct. Then we have sentence completion. Repetition of words. You have here correct, incorrect, unable, and unintelligible. Then we have repetitions of sentences. Then we have reading for words. You're going to mark correct, incorrect, or unable. And you see here the words are presented facing the patient, so the patient can read the words, and you would be scoring at the bottom. Then we have reading of phrases. Then we have reading comprehension. You're going to give this to the patient. The patient will read. then you swipe for him to answer the questions. And you can hand the iPad to the patient at this point. Then we've got spelling. This is an oral spelling test. And if you need help, again, with the instructions, you are going to be asking the patient to spell these words out for you. You give him the first word, baby, and he will spell it out, and then you're going to mark accordingly. You notice that these tasks, some of the tasks will have a skip button. In this case, for example, written words, you would have to give a paper and a pencil or a pen to your patient, and he would write these words as you tell them, write the word baby. And they write it on a piece of paper, and then you check for accuracy. You can tap the skip button that you don't want to perform this task if you don't have the tools to complete the task, if the patient is unable to hold a pencil or pen, or if your patient refuses to complete the task. And you mark the reason and you select skip. So some of the tasks we allow you to skip, and then we give you options as to the reason for skipping that specific task. So that is portrayed on the report itself. And here you have the screening, the final portion of the screening. And it allows you to select the type of aphasia that you observed during the screening. And you can modify this later on. But here, for example, I observed, I can do a couple of aphasia types. You can actually do as many as you need to select. And you tap on complete screening. Now my screening is complete. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the results. So now that we're taking a look at the analysis, and you can see this beautiful graph. You have here for answering questions, it was 60% accurate. Then you have body part identification was just 20% accurate, with 20% being correct. You have the red portion is the wrong portion, and the yellow is the unable portion. Then if you tap here, you go to the expressive language. At the top, you see the overall percentage was just 18%. And then you have the individual tasks, naming, completion for phrase and sentence, repetition for word and sentence, and then reading for word and phrase. Then you have the other tests at the bottom, automatic speech, reading comprehension, and so on and so forth. Then we're going to take a look at the oral motor skills. Within normal stick out your tongue, and you see the results here accordingly. And the great thing about iScreen Aphasia is it generates the report automatically. You see here, these are my screening results, and this is the report that was generated based on the screening. At the end, there's a place there for your signature, and you can share this via email. You can print it directly from your iPad or share it back to other apps. And that was it for iScreen Aphasia. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit our website at www.smartyearsapps.com.